A very good day to our lecturer, Dr. Nur Shaida. We are from students from Group 4 in the subject of Electronic Communication System, Section 2. So today, we are going to present our group project, which is Project 1, Modulation Circuit. There are 5 members in our group, which is Nohanim Shahida binti Haslan, Farah Shahira binti Zil Husham, Irene Sofia binti Faslin Hakimi, Sambavi anak perempuan Tiruvenkataraju, and Chen Wanwen. So there are a few contents we need to present through this presentation, which is introduction, objective, methodology, result and discussion, conclusion, and references.
What is modulation? Modulation is integrating information into output signal or electrical signal. Modulation is a process of transforming data in radio wave. Besides that, a steady waveform with a constant height, amplitude and also frequency refer as a carrier. Besides that, modulation also apply electromagnetic signal. Direct current also can treated as a degenerate carrier wave with a fixed amplitude, frequency and also can be modulated. It's worked mainly by turning on and off. Baseband modulation refers to response message indicating that attached device is no longer connected to remote system. It also can be used to control flow frequency of alternating current. As we know, modulation also has several types, which is amplitude modulation (AM), frequency modulation (FM), phase modulation (PM), polarization modulation, passcode modulation, and also quadrature amplitude modulation. Why modulation is important? It is because modulation has both a lowest and highest frequency component attenuated of redundant with transmission being practical. It also enables to send low frequency signal over bandpass frequency range using modulation. Each signal has its own frequency range and we can send a multiple message over a same channel at the same time. It also allows for use small antenna. Now let's talk about modulation and demodulation. Modulation is a process of encoding information in transmitted signal. And then for the demodulation is a process of extraction information. Demodulator also include on multiple stage of amplification and filtering. Carrier signal also carry more than one information stream. Carrier signal also carry more than one modulation of information stream. And then for time division multiplexing is cycling through all the channel before returning to first. About frequency division multiplexing is multiple carrier of different frequency and use a same medium. And then last but not least, wavelength division multiplexing is modulate multiple wavelength of frequency on long haul link to increase bandwidth.
The objective in this project is the first one to understand the concept of modulating signal and amplitude modulation. And the second one is to build the modulated circuit waveform of the modulated signal by using produce simulation. And the third one is to identify the input signal and the carrier signal of the circuit. And lastly, to get the output of a waveform modulating signal.
So I will going to present the part of methodology. Through this simulation for the modulation circuit, there are few components we had used in this circuit. The first one is AC power supply. AC power supply is a power source that delivers alternating current, which is AC, output to a load. The second component is inductor. Inductor is a passive component which is frequently used in combination with capacitors and resistors to create filters for analog circuits and also in signal processing too. The third component is resistor. Resistor is a passive electronic appliance that has two terminals and it is used in electrical circuit to control or limit the flow of current. The fourth component is diode. Diode is a semiconductor component that generally switch its current in a one-way manner. It allows smooth flow in one direction, but significantly limits the current flow in the opposite direction. The another component is capacitor. Capacitor is an electrical component, stores and releases electricity in a circuit. And the last component is oscilloscope. Oscilloscope is to test and show the voltage signals to generate a waveform which is in voltage over time. So for the part of the flow of the circuit, as the image shown in the slide, the circuit diagram is simulating a modulated signal which acts as an output of a modulation circuit. This circuit diagram is drawn and simulated by Proteus app and consists of two AC supply, 4 resistors in a resistance of 10 kilo ohm, a diode in a model of 1N4007, a capacitor in 1 nanofarad, an inductor in 1 microhenry, and an oscilloscope. Initially, to produce a modulated output signal, an input signal and a carrier signal has been generated, and next will enter the modulation circuit. Modulating signal will be converted through the circuit as the input and hence generates a modulated output signal. The output signal is observed through the oscilloscope. The input signal produces an output of modulation signal, and while the carrier signal produces an output of amplitude modulation, AM signal.
Okay, next for the result and discussion. As we know, we choose the first question, which is the modulation circuit. We build the circuit in the Proteus 8 and we get the input and output in the oscilloscope. From the picture 1, we can see our circuit that we build, and the second picture is the input and the output that we get from the oscilloscope. In our circuit, we put two power supplies, 4 resistors, 1 capacitor, 1 inductor, 1 diode. And lastly, we put the oscilloscope to see the input and the output signal. The value for all the resistance in this circuit is 1 kilo ohm. And then, the amplitude in the first power supply is 2 volt and the frequency is 10 kilohertz. For the second power supply, we use the amplitude is 5 volt and the in our circuit, we put two power supplies, 4 resistors, 1 capacitor, 1 inductor, 1 diode. And lastly, we put the oscilloscope to see the input and the output signal. The value for all the resistance in this circuit is 1 kilo ohm. And then, the amplitude in the first power. In this slide, it shows us the input and the output signal from our circuit that we build. For the first input, we got the modulation signal, and the second input, we get the carrier signal. And lastly, we get the output is modulated signal. In this oscilloscope, we can adjust the waveform that we get to get the clear view in the waveform. For example, we change the position and the size of waveform as we do in the video to get clear view for our. In this slide, it shows us the input and the output signal from our circuit that we build. For the first input, we got the modulation signal, and the second input, we get the carrier.